Hope Channel, changing lives.
Good evening and welcome to the Law Chambers, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. I am Anita Delight, your usual hostess, and this season we've all agreed that we are doing the relationship between the employer and the employee. So last week, unfortunately, we couldn't come your way. We apologize again. But last 2 weeks, we were here and we discussed a lot of things you have to look out for before you enter into a contractual agreement with someone to work for or to work with. If you didn't take anything home last time, one thing you should have known is this simple fact. If you are working with someone, you need a contract. There has to be something that shows that you are indeed working for the person, how much you are being paid, every remuneration there is in that particular contract. So we've told you, if you we've worked for someone for more than 6 months and you still don't have any proof of any paper, any contract to show that you are working for the person, please, it's time you ask that person that particular question. Where is my contract? So today we are going to discuss every contract there is between the employer and the employee. So if you're an employee, what are some of the contracts you should be expecting from your employer? And if you're an employer, what are some of the contracts you should be given to your employees? And apart from that, the benefit. Because Charlie, man go chop, we have to eat. We are working so that we can eat. You understand? Yes. So if you are working, what are some of the things you should be expecting from your employer? In terms of money, in terms of nutrition, in terms of accommodation, in terms of feeding, in terms of what are they? Are you entitled to all of those? Are you entitled to some? That's what we are going to discuss today. So call a friend to call that friend, to let them know, because either you are an employee or you become an employer. You need to understand these things. So without much ado, you see how I'm beautifully dressed? Oh, I couldn't ask them. If I called, trust me, I've done a 360 for you. Next time I'll ask them so that I do a 360 for you. So my clothes is by LS Fashion Mall. You want such a beautiful cloth? It's from LS Fashion Mall. So call Samuela on 0243 018 508. Samuela on 0243 018 508. And with Samuela giving me my material, we have Rose sewing it for me, and that's Mamel's Creation. So call Rose on 0541 809393. Rose on 0541 809393. It's going down there. So you just look at it and then you go to them for us. Because please, we need sponsors and we are getting sponsors. So you need to really help them so that they also help us. Irrespective of where you are in the country, just contact them. Tell them the kind of materials you're interested in, the styles you're interested in, and they'll do justice for you, and they'll send it to you wherever you'll find. And one thing I like about Rose is the good thing I like about her, you give her your measurement, or palm not the brewer, or when you wear it, you'll even be shocked that, she wasn't the one who did all that, but she was able to fit you perfectly. So please call them for me. It's very, very important. And remember, we are live on Hope TV and all social media handles. If you go to Facebook, the Law Chambers, our page is there. You can watch all our old videos there. So let me delve right in. So I have two strong lawyers with me today. Two very, very strong lawyers. So let me start with the lady. They say ladies first. So I have lawyer Linda Echa Afrani. Linda is a lawyer with over 11 years of experience. I call her my senior. She's my senior, you understand? And she's really handled a lot of aspects in respect to HR, compliance, governance, dispute resolutions. She's worked with so many she's young, but she's worked with so many financial institutions. Trust me, a lot of them. And they include the now defunct Pro Credit Savings and Loans Limited, Fidelity Bank, Eastway Savings and Loans, plenty. She used to be with Atugbe and Associates. I think that's where we met.
Yes.
We met at Atugbe and Associates, and that's an interesting place we met. Currently, she's the company secretary of National Investment Bank Limited. She has an executive master's degree in business administration, specifically finance.
Yes.
And I was surprised.
Yes.
Why finance? Why not HR?
HR, I have so much experience in HR, I don't think I need it.
By a lawyer doing finance.
Yeah, because I was in the financial sector and I needed to understand what actually we do. So I needed to understand anything we do.
And how was the calculation?
It was just one. It was hell. It
Lawyers
was hell,
Yes.
but we sailed through.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. We passed. We passed.
So that's Linda. That's Linda. You'll be hearing a lot from Linda, a wonderful, intelligent lady by all standards. Then I have with me lawyer Dennis Yao, Matekpo Hediho. Did I get it right?
Matekpo Hediho.
Give it to me. Give it to me. So, Dennis, when we talk about seasoned human resource persons, Dennis is up there with over 22 years of experience. He's worked with a lot of multinational companies. If I even start to mention from Ghana Breweries Limited to Guinness Ghana Brewery to a lot. So when I talk about a lawyer with HR experience, Dennis is one of them. So currently, he doubles as a freelance human resource and management consultant. And then he's the lead consultant with Plateau Consults Limited, one of the leading HR consultancy firms in Ghana. And one thing I love about him is that he's worked with the telecos, the NGOs, the oil and gas, the energy, real estate, agriculture, education. He cuts across. So wherever we'll be touching in terms of HR, I know that he'll be able to help us with. And when it comes to labor issues and dispute resolution, Dennis is our go-to guy. Dennis.
Hi.
Console. I hope you're doing well.
Very well.
And how's the
Very
family?
well.
Everyone
is doing fine.
We thank God. We thank God.
And yours?
They are fine. They are fine. The baby doesn't allow us to sleep, but what can we do?
Now who calls up?
My husband calls up. All right, so let's delve into it. When we talk about an employee, a worker, who is a worker? We said something about last week, but I just want us a refresher course. Who is a worker?
Okay, I would. Why wouldn't we start with an employer?
Okay,
Then,
please do.
Because there must be the employer to have the employee.
I'm a little bad too as an employee.
I know.
Don't worry.
I know.
Dennis, go ahead.
So the employer is an individual. And when we say an individual, it could be either a natural or an artificial person, okay, who hires someone by contract to do something in exchange for pay, either in cash or non-cash. Okay. Now, then when you are looking at an employee, is someone who has agreed to do something for someone in exchange for pay. So that is why I said let's first look at the employer and then we'll look at the employee, because one has to be there before the other.
But one thing I get to understand is that when you agree to employ someone, there should be some contracts. What are some of those contracts? And a little bit of information on it.
Okay, so first of all, you need to know what kind of employee you want to bring on board. Okay, whether the person is a permanent employee or would be a permanent employee, a full-time employee, permanent or full-time employee, a fixed-term employee, part-time.
Let's go back. Explain those terms.
I will explain. I just wanted for you to have an idea of the types of workers that we have before we even go into delve into their contracts and all. So whether you're employing the person as a full-time or permanent employee, part-time, fixed term, and even under the fixed term, we have varieties of them, whether the person is temporary or casual, or there is another form of fixed term which is like goes beyond a year and all that. So under these, for instance, if the person is a permanent employee, the person works full-time, and full-time means that the person is working the entire week. And per law, the person is supposed to work 40 hours a week. The person is working
40 hours a week.
Exactly, 8 hours a day, and then 40 hours a week. So the person is working full-time. When it comes to part-time, the person works probably 20 hours a week or less, you know, but then may have some of the provisions that are in the contracts of a full-time person, you know. And then when it comes to fixed-term contracts and all, it's like you have a duration. So you have a start date, and then you have an end date. For instance, somebody may want to employ you for 6 months. Somebody would want to employ you for 3 months. And some of these fixed-term contracts are seasonal. And these seasonal contracts are what we term the casual employment contracts or the temporary worker contracts, you know. So basically, these are the different types of contracts or workers that we may have.
Okay, so when you do employ me, it depends on the kind of employee I am, the kind of worker I am. That will determine the kind of contract I have?
Yes,
okay.
yes. So for instance, when it comes to, let me just give an example.
Yes.
When it comes to call centers, most of the time, because of the attrition rates, they don't want permanent
Because of the what?
Because of the attrition rates.
What does that mean?
The level at which people go or leave the institution.
Okay.
Or people resign, let me just put it that way.
Oh, damn it.
They don't want to, employ permanent employees, you know. Most of these call center workers are fixed-term workers, you know. They have probably a 6 months contract which is renewable, or probably a year's contract which is renewable. And it's easy to, you know, let go of a fixed term worker than a permanent worker. Even though with fixed term you may not enjoy some of the packages like probably redundancy, you are not covered when it comes to fixed term contracts. Yeah.
So now let's go a step further. So now I've been employed. I'm a permanent worker. What are some of the documents that I should expect my employer to give me? Or if I'm an employer, what are some of the documents I should be giving my employee?
Okay, so as a permanent employee,
yeah,
you are being hired,
yes,
and you want to know what are the documents that you expect your employer to give you. Obviously, the first is the appointment letter, as you may want to call it, or your contract letter, or your engagement letter. Anything or any document that spells out the, you know, things that you should be expecting to be given to you, and what you should be expecting to give to your employer. And then you may also be expecting to be given the terms and conditions of service. And that is where you find a lot more. As for the engagement letter, will only contain just summaries of things that you should be expecting to be given to you and what you should be giving back to your employer. But the terms and conditions of service, usually it's a little bulky, contains a lot of things that you should be do, or things that are expected from you. There are some do's and don'ts. Some may want to also include what we call employee manual, which also will give you some guidelines in terms of where to go to when you want A or B, whom you should contact when it is A or B, and sometimes even the processes that you have to go through in executing one task or the other. It also contains some policies okay, could be any policy at all, could be performance, management policy, and how reward are, implemented or shared, around who qualifies for what. Sometimes it also gives you an idea of the weight of the job that you have been hired to do, and what are the corresponding reward, okay, salary and other benefits that go with that particular job. So these are some of the things that you should be expecting. Again, if the job requires some tools, okay, as we call tools of trade, then you should be also expecting your employer to give you those so that they will enhance the delivery of your work. So these are some of the things that you should be expecting from your employer.
Counsel, you've said a lot. These are some of the things you should be expecting. But indeed and in fact, those are not the things that are given. So you look at the typical person who works for an organization, and even the basic which you give, that contract or employment contract, the person doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Are there laws that really compels an employer to give these documents? And if the employer is not given it, what's the employer expected to do?
So in the first place, we may have to look at the nature of contract. What is a contract? We need to define what contract is.
Please do.
You understand me?
Yeah.
So when we are able to do that, then we are able to tell whether or not what they are doing constitutes whatever. So in defining a contract, we may have to look at what are the elements.
Yes.
Okay? What are the elements? What form a contract? And there are 4 basic elements in there. That's what? Offer and acceptance. We are looking at intention to create legal relations. We are also looking at consideration. And then what? The parties must be
in tandem in respect to they go into an agreement.
And they must have the legal age and
exactly, capacity.
Yes.
So these 4, okay, are very important. Now, the 3 of us here have been taught to know that contract is not necessarily written. It may be by the conduct of the parties. So usually where there are disputes and people, decide to go to court, the court will not be necessarily asking whether or not what the parties agreed to
was written
are in writing. But the court will look at the conduct of the parties, some of the statements they made, and what they did after those statements were made. So I come to your establishment and you decide to hire me. You decide to ignore giving me a written contract. But we discussed what you expected me to do and how much you'll be giving me. Now, all we need to do is to go through that interaction that took place to see whether we will identify the elements of a contract in there. So was there an offer? Was there an acceptance? Both parties will be offering something, both parties will be accepting something.
Of course.
Was there a proposal of consideration? Was it accepted? Are the parties of capacity, legal capacity, to enter into such a contract? And then, above all that they were doing, was there that intention to where there are breaches, they can apply for the court to come in to resolve those issues? If we can identify those, then we can say that there is an established contract, whether or not it is in writing.
Yeah. Okay. So, but let's look at this from this angle. The Labour Act is very specific about there being a written contract.
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, I understand that if there's no written contract, the court will
conduct.
look at the context
Conduct.
and look at the conduct of the parties and say indeed there is a contract, whether or not it's written or not. But when the Labour Act is very specific, an employer should give the employee a contract when that person is employed, and the employer is not really doing that, and the employees, because I know a lot of people, they tell me, I've been working for 3-4 years.
So that is
I don't
where
have a contract.
National Labour Commission comes in.
Okay.
And unfortunately, a lot of our employees don't even know who they are.
That's why we're here to educate them.
Or what they do.
Okay.
So in case you have something similar to what you just explained, you can seek redress at the National Labour Commission. There are ADR experts there to help you. There are lawyers there to help you pro bono. Even Anita is here to help you pro bono. Council is here to help you pro bono. So then we need to know where we have to go to seek redress for some of these behaviors of some of these employers, you know, because you can get somebody working for about 2 years without a contract, or the person doesn't even know what do you call it, my role is. Today you are doing HR, tomorrow you are doing administration,
and then today they're giving you 500, tomorrow there's no money, they're giving you 200.
Your SNIT is not being paid, which is statutory.
Yeah, we'll be coming to the benefits.
So just go to National Labour Commission and seek redress.
But let's be realistic. The average employee is afraid. There's no work to do, and I'm not taking my employer to because National Labour Commission next 2 weeks they'll be coming to the show. Nice. So we'll be asking them a lot of these questions. Nice. But yes, so I do well. I mean, so I'm already afraid that I might lose my job. Then I'm taking my employer to National Labour Commission.
But Anita, you need to speak up. You need to speak out. Some of these employers really know what they are doing. They know what they are doing is wrong, but they will still continue to do it because we are quiet. And nobody is prepared to bring them to book.
That's
you understand? You have to demand your pound of flesh.
That's true.
You know, quite apart from that, I think that the very first step that any employee who finds himself or herself in such a situation is to approach the employer, you know, and kind of demand that letter.
So informally have a discussion with the HR or the head.
Exactly.
About
so make some effort, okay, and document those efforts.
That's very necessary.
You understand me? Document those efforts.
So when you're doing it, you do it in writing. You keep a copy.
Yes, you understand me. Even if you are sending an email.
Yeah.
Okay, it is also a form of documentation.
That's true.
Okay, and
WhatsApp right now. WhatsApp cries.
Yes, anything that you can
print out.
Yes, and show as proof of the steps you took. Okay, so if all those are not working, usually, employees will not just go to the National Labour Commission because the employer has not given them a written contract or something like that. But it is mostly when there are disputes, when there are issues. You understand me? Then one party wants to, you know, sometimes they want the party, the weaker party, to believe that because I have not given you any contract, any written contract, then it means that there is no contract.
But the question is, should I wait until there's a dispute before I ask for my contract?
And that is why I said that, look, keep asking, and when you do that, document. You understand me?
So if it doesn't
emails.
Work,
then you can, yes. You know, but again, why are you doing that? What is necessitating your demand? Because I want to know A, B, C, D. Because I want to be clear as to, you said a while ago that sometimes you are given a particular job, the next time they move it, another time, and then you don't know, you sometimes become lost.
You become a work prostitute.
Yes, you don't even know what it is. You know, and at the end of the period, someone is assessing your output.
Yeah.
You know, so you need to have some of these things in place so that when you need to defend yourself, you can, maybe halfway through you are moved, and so you were not able to fully execute what you were given and all that, yet you are being assessed on. So some of these things are necessary. Don't just look on, you know, but demand for it.
Yeah.
And document your demands.
Just to add to councils, documentation is very necessary in HR. Documentation is very, very necessary. And even if you go to National Labour Commission, they would require for evidence and all that. So whatever conversations you have with your employer, you need to document them, just like what council said.
Okay. So now, if nothing at all, in the academy, say, oh, you be a juma. I said, ni panema or crate be a say, only ni juma. Crate any mono, or better scout the bemau, a juma yes or ye, specific a juma or ye time, being or being send or being choose our hiana or the bay or leave period. Yamani near be na and was our documenting. Inti se who needs our document me why juma 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Only be ye juma or mouse I crata ibi. Say me no na juma say ya. And then obama cleaning work. Ech na secretary. Ech na tuba be gate woman. Which na gate na no na we ech na be reception. Because e more document ech e juma poten ya o ye. Nti de bia na e tose. But only omubo nkomo na ye mouse paper na onim se medjuma na me secretary nyem na meba no be cleaning office ho nia menye cleaner say de beka ho ama me enye problem meaning say ese misika no so cost bi what I say nti sa really sa paper na ehia sa paper na yan fa ma wa utu anamo oni nipa ne bebo nkomo komo na ne ebo nia no make sure say wo bibi a che say oni sa wo employer na abosa nkomo no paper, email, WhatsApp, we bisa nipa no mpacho. Me no aye juma for 2 years ni. Me ni contractor, I just say me no ye juma. Mpacho da be na menya me contract. Next time once I follow up, mpacho me expect say menya me contract maybe in the next 2 weeks and 1 month. Ni na document it. Yes na fe do be nso on person of the mawa. Utimi no call National Labour Commission ho. Ye don be next 2 weeks aba ha. Omo bebo omo ne aba bebo nkomo ha say next 2 weeks. So nini omo akokasa no mo kasa me boa no enye bi because oni bibi. Se wonni sa paper ni bi enche se oni ni munni ejuma mo ye ejuma because na cancel kan no. Your written contract ni oral. Odo ma me paper bi aye no me ye ejuma no utua meka. They say your contract bi. But sa de no de call lawyer ho a ebe tenten na fe na ewa. What I say nti nya sa paper ni bi. So far na ne aka na ti sia na dey say be ka bio ne say uni obi ye ejuma nyama ben bi sa na eche so de ma nyama ben apart from de bi eni nim say ska but apart from ska nyama ben bi na sa nipa na eche say oye ma nti ne ba be koso sisia no so council because council there's no one else. Yeah. The first time I heard this, my boss told me, Anita, council there's no one else. All right, so council, so now let's go to the benefits of an employee. Okay. So if I'm an employee, what are the basic benefits due me via the labor law? So
statutorily, you would have to obviously get your salary. Your salary, you have to get it for the equal work, equal pay thing. And then secondly, you need your leave, your annual leave or maternity leave. And per law, the annual leave is 15 working days.
The least.
The least. That's the minimum of 15 working days, yes. So if you are getting less, please talk to your employer. Then maternity leave is what, 3 months or 12 weeks, as they say. Then you're also entitled to overtime if you work up and above the 40 hours that the law prescribes.
Hey, it's asking
yes. Overtime, you have to be paid overtime. If you're not being paid, it's something that you need to talk to your employer about. However, the rate for overtime varies with every institution anyway. Then obviously your retirement package tier 1, tier 2 is compulsory.
That's net and then the tier 2.
Yes. So these 4 things, I think it's statutory, is backed by the labor law.
Let me just add to what she has said. The medical is also very important.
The medical leave.
Yeah, medical subsidy. subsidy.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, it's mandatory.
Yes, it is, because everyone may fall sick. You understand me?
I have to talk to my employer.
So usually what is advised is that even if the employer hasn't got the money to do the private one, there's the national health insurance one that people can. No,
National
but at
health.
least that is why we
Does
said
it work?
that's the. Oh yeah, it
Yes,
does.
it does.
It does.
It works?
It does.
Yes, it does. We are told that it does.
Apart from para, they don't give me anything.
No, at least that's the minimum we can do for your employees.
Para.
National health insurance.
It works.
You know, because you once you contribute to, the pension scheme, you are entitled to it. So I mean, so medical is one. Then also she touched on overtime. There are some category of workers who overtime is factored in their salaries by the nature, because of the nature of their work. Typical the management category. So that is just to before you start having people call you, and then tomorrow you get to the office and you're like, Charlie, last week
I did.
Yes, so,
I went over the weekend. You have to pay me.
Yes. So that's just what I want to clarify.
Okay, so we are looking at your salary. We are looking at your leave. Does leave includes at least 15 days. We are looking at your maternity leave and paternity leave nowadays. Is this
but that one is not in the.
It's not in the Labour Act. It's not in the Labour Act.
We can discuss that. That is a debate.
Because at my workplace, they give paternity for 7 days.
I see.
Okay, at my workplace, it's 10 family responsibility.
And how many days?
And you have about 5 days.
Okay.
Yes.
So it means some institutions are trying.
Yeah.
So that one is really not part. But if your institution is doing it, then your institution is really, really trying. So we also have your SNET contributions.
Yes.
That's tier 1 and then tier 2. Some people do tier 3. That's not mandatory.
Yes.
That one is discretionary, depending on you. So if you are working for an organization, these are the basic things you should have.
Sure.
And it's non-negotiable. But now let's delve a little bit into the salary bit. The minimum wage is now what?
I'm
not sure what the minimum wage is now, but we can Google and find out.
Was it 12 or 13?
Somewhere
last year.
Yes, they brought it. I think.
So I want to know where you are driving at.
So if that's a minimum wage and you are working for 40, so it means 40 times the minimum wage times the amount. You shouldn't get paid below that amount.
Yeah, but you see, the minimum wage is only a guide.
Yes. So it shouldn't be below.
And if you even use the minimum wage to work things out, I mean,
it's about 300, 400.
But then you get some of these security officers,
I know someone who is paid 120.
Exactly.
Which is
abysmal
below
salaries.
Yes.
Then that is not correct.
Yes, and that's why I was looking at the minimum wage.
Yeah.
So you Google minimum wage, we'll come back to that question again.
Correct.
Minimum wage. So now let's look at some of the other benefit that is really not due everyone, but some people really get it anyways.
Okay, so for the financial sector, which I've been privileged to work in, most of the time we get clothing.
Clothing?
Yes.
No wonder you're looking that good.
Thank you very much. We get clothing, we get rent, some get lunch.
Every day?
Yes, every day. And
I think I have to move.
Please, your employer is listening, is watching you, I see.
Some get lunch. Some of these executives, we get executive allowance, entertainment allowance, and all that. Yes, there are a lot of benefits, my dear. Yes. So these are, off the top of my head, these are what I think majority of the financial institutions give. Yeah.
But again, these are institution specific. Okay. And the nature of the role, the nature of the operations, the task, and all those will necessitate some of these, allowances. We have to be very careful so that we don't make it look like it is the right of people,
No.
but rather it is what
A
you are.
privilege.
Yeah, not a privilege.
It's at the discretion of
Yes,
management.
but I will not call those. Some are privileges, but others are not.
They are not.
For example, if you take roles like the engineering roles, okay, because of the nature of those roles, there are some, allowances that are given. For example, I know of risk allowance,
Yes.
height allowance.
Height.
Yes,
What
for
is
those
interesting.
who will be climbing, very high.
But isn't that a risk kind of?
Well, you see, so they have
Is that
all.
risks and a height?
Yes,
Our second life, we have to go into engineering.
Be mindful.
So it depends. It depends on the type of, So and they are all over the place. So, and I mean, some may not give, and may want to sometimes agitate. But I say that don't agitate for it. Make a justification for why you also qualify for those. What have you seen at the other side that is necessitating the employer to give out those, benefits?
Yeah.
And what is it that you are doing that is similar to theirs?
Yeah.
And then also, is your employer able to afford?
That
Affordability is
very
always,
It's key.
an issue.
It's
So
key.
we should not
It's key.
skip affordability.
But I think I agree with you to a large extent. But as in terms of you making your case, yes. But I've also realized that some employers don't understand dialogue. So if persuasion fails, of course, let's apply force. Because I had known some institutions, and I was working with one of their employees. And you realize that you go and sit down with this employer, he will talk us and tell us all the good things he plans.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Twice, three times, I realized that this man thought we were kids. So the minute we started a little agitation here and there, he sat up and he started doing something. Because there's a reason why the law allows people to go on demonstrations, the law allows people to go on strike and all that. There's a reason, because you realize that some employers don't know this. So the minimum wage as at 1st January 2024 is 18.15.
Oh, it's been revised. That's
yes,
good.
January 2024, 18.15.
That's good.
So 18.15
times
times
21.4.
Some 22.
22.
22.
21.67.
Yeah, calculations
22.
here. So 18, let's see, 18.15 times
22 working days.
22 times 40.
So
And
let's do
no,
the daily
22
wage
working.
first.
399. So approximately 400.
400.
So all things being equal, if you are working for someone, the person shouldn't pay you anything less than 40 Ghana cedis. 400 Ghana cedis. It shouldn't be less than 400 Ghana cedis. But they can pay 4,000, 10,000, 1,000. It's allowed, but not less than 400 Ghana cedis. So that guy who is paid 120 a month,
You see,
no SNET, no benefits
Nothing.
whatsoever.
Sometimes you need to go into understanding why it is so. If it is just what it is, then there is the need to query, the practice. But if the gentleman or the person may have taken some loans, those who earn less, their take home is not able to take them home. So there's always the need to every now and then, fall on their employers to give them some soft loans, and at the end of the month, those soft loans are deducted. Okay, so then the person takes home something small, and yet when you ask, they will not be kind enough to tell you that, look, in actual fact, this is what it is. But this has been taken out of it, and that's why I'm taking this. So we need to understand the background before we jump into
so
conclusion.
if there's more to it, then, but if really the person is taking home 150, then it's unacceptable.
Yeah, I think what we want to drum home to everyone is that your basic salary should not be below 400 Ghana cedis a month.
Yeah. Approach.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's the basic thing we want everybody to know, so that in case you are negotiating your salaries and all, you have this base, and then you move up from there.
So now let's look at, I want us to go for a question, but let's look at the, in quotes, the maids, the security persons, the domestic workers and everything. Is the employer really expected to pay SNIT and Tier 1, Tier 2? Is that really expected?
It's statutory.
But how many people pay SNIT for their maids?
That is how come you get SNIT coming in every now and then. Well, they used to coming into organizations, yes, to educate employees and also to sanction employers who are not doing so. And mostly SNIT works with employment contracts. So that's how come employment contracts are very necessary. And many of these employees, especially with these domestic staff, don't give them. You understand?
They are picking a maid. Will you be giving a paper?
Exactly. So I think SNIT is doing well these days by trying to go beyond just a formal workplace. They also have other means of ensuring that informal sector is also taken care of one way or the other. You get it? Informal sector, not in the sense of the word like informal sector, but probably these domestic staff, probably these security guards and all that. So they are doing well in terms of.
But let me just add.
Yeah, please.
When we look, when we started, we tried to define who an employee is. If we can look at their situation and apply the definition of an employee and it fits in their situation, then they qualify for such. Because when you read the National Pension Scheme, the Act, it states categorically that every employee.
Yes.
You understand me? So once you fall within the category of an employee, then automatically you qualify for that. So whether they are
domestic or
mainstream or whatever it is, once the definition or what they are doing can fit the definition of an employee, then they qualify for it.
Yes.
One of the areas that sometimes I fear most is that when you try to fight for these things, yes, that goes round and they try to enforce these things. And you realize that, yes, the employer will pay and then maybe pay the penalties thereof, and after 2-3 months, they lay the people off. So if I'm in danger of being laid off,
you keep quiet.
Why? That's no job. So people would rather want to keep quiet than to go all out like that. So what's the advice? I think one advice I gave someone the last time was, if they lay you off, that's unfair termination and we can get money. And I'm like, okay, so when we really go around and we really are able to establish that there really was an unfair, of course there can be a fair and unfair.
Sure.
We can establish there's unfair termination and they give you the money, then what? After 1 week, 2 months, 3 months, then that's what he asked. Scan, then I'm going to look for a job again. Why don't I just sit there and then
endure?
That's the question.
It's unfortunate. Well, it's really unfortunate.
Very unfortunate, but life always throws at us choices.
Yes.
And we are all here.
Apart from law, let's do sociology a bit. So you are working, you're not being paid well, you're not being paid right, you know that what your employer is doing is wrong. You are afraid to speak up because if you do speak up, you'll be laid off. And it will be difficult to even establish if it was unfair termination.
Sure.
So you want to suck up and stay in there. So the question is, should I suck it up and stay in there? Should I fight and become the David of the day? Or maybe I should be, while there I look around, scout for other job opportunities and leave?
It's a choice. It's a choice.
So that's sociology. Give me a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. Maybe you first would like to scout out there and find one, and then once you know that, you see, if a blind man tells you that.
And a nice to be
Exactly. You understand me? So if you know that you don't have what it takes to fight, choose your fight. You understand me? Choose your fight. Otherwise, you are the person who is going to suffer the, as someone would say, consequences.
Just to add to what Council said, I think Council mentioned early on about dialoguing, you know. So try the dialogue and speak to the heart of your employer.
Did they have one?
Oh, you never know. Maybe that day he's left at the right side of the bed.
Or the wife did something nice,
yes,
or the husband did something.
You never know. Exactly. So try the dialogue and be hitting on it, like in a very not antagonistic way, but then try, you know, oh say, maybe in some salary, say, "How you home baby?" And I say, "Come my lunch in KPO," and I say, "Me patrol, me who say as medical benefits no." It's in Tinkerbell and Calvis me up in a car because the last time you did was about 5 years ago. He's a human being just like you and I. Some of them would listen and they may change things, and some of them may not. And also, if you have a unionized environment,
exactly,
it helps.
That's where I wanted to go to.
It helps. It helps to an extent, and they'll fight for you. But then at the end of the day, like I said, it all boils down to dialoguing and not being antagonistic. But if at the end of the day your employer decides not to listen to you, that's where the strikes and whatnot come in for you to drum home your point.
Let me add to that. I like that aspect, but you see, very often when people are placing such demands on the table, when you place it so vague, oh, the last time, you know, you increased it was 5 years ago and all that, it does not put weight on the demand than when you are now ascribing some other social reasons.
Like inflation and all.
Inflation, you know,
and then have,
yes, and then even make reference to some recent happenings that is calling, you know, because they are humans.
Yes.
And when you place such facts on the table, they're able to come to terms with them. Now, the issue with the unions, especially, is that we should not encourage people to want to hide behind the union per se. But the thing is that, how much have you helped the employer to gather, so that the employer is able to afford the demands you are placing on the table? So if the company is suffering, obviously when you place such demands on the table, no one is going to listen to you. But if we are putting in our best and good is coming out of that, I mean, when you get to the table and you place those demands and the employer is not even listening to you, I mean, people around will know that, Charlie, you are not playing fairly with the other parties.
Let me be the devil's advocate here. We know of organizations that are doing well. When you hear of their annual turnovers, you open your eyes extra wide and you go like, hey, all this money, one organization. But then again, you hear what some of the employees have to say in terms of their remuneration, and it's nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
And the question you ask yourself is, what is happening? What are they doing with all those monies? And they'll tell you that, one employer,
Infrastructure.
yeah. How do you know? That's the word they use. Infrastructure and restructuring. And the buffer is so big that I ask, what does that mean? What does restructuring and infrastructure mean? We have to the organization needs it. I'm like, what about the human resource? Is it that the employers sometimes don't really understand, appreciate human resource, or they usually, what is that? Or we are bashing the employers too much?
No, you see, I mean, the question is valid, but there are a lot of factors that will go into that. Some stemming from the HR, you know, organization point. How well have they been able to front the needs or the demands of their, you know, the people they are supposed to, you know, to manage? How well are they justifying some of this? Because individuals cannot just go. You spoke about
But
unions.
frankly speaking, let me be fair here. The HR personnel don't see themselves as the bridge between the employee and the employee. They don't see themselves as part of the employees.
So that is
they
where
see themselves as part of management and part of the of the.
But that is where it starts
so
from.
the way you're going to talk to your human resource manager, you're being afraid.
So that
because instead of the person fighting for you, the person is fighting with you.
That is where it starts from. You understand me? So that is one factor. You understand me? That's one factor. And there are other factors, like even coming from the employees themselves, the way they carry themselves, the way they even, go about with delivering their tasks and all those things. So sometimes, and even sometimes, we talked about union. The union can go and sit there and then they will negotiate something. And they normally go with what? With percentages.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So 10% of 1 is what? And 10% of 100 is what? You understand me? So when you go with equality, then that is it. We have to be fighting for equity. But very often it is equality. And we know that we can never be equal. We can never, some people will even start speaking about their MDs, look at him driving the big cars and all those. But should you be given such a role to play? Do you have the capabilities? Do you have what it takes? Do you know? There are a lot of factors. So we cannot just say that the organization, I get you, not that I'm not getting you, I get you that indeed some are not really doing what they are supposed to do.
Exactly.
Okay? But again, what are the factors that are calling or that are making them behave the way they are behaving? We need to understand them before we jump into conclusion. That is all.
That's fair. That's fair. So now let me ask this question. So if benefit due an employee is not being paid, what's the employee expected to do? And when you've employed people to work for you and you are paying them, but they're not doing the work, what do you do?
So so let me just take it from the employee not working point of view. So there are, I don't know about other institutions, but then most institutions have performance management processes that they use to, manage performance in an organization. So first off, you have to track. Some of them are given monthly targets, that you track almost every day. It's a straightforward thing when it comes to a sales environment anyway. Yeah. So for instance, you are given 100,000. You're supposed to bring in 100,000 deposits in a month. So if you don't do that in a month, what happens to you? Some institutions will say warning letter. Other institutions will say just give a verbal warning or something, a written warning, verbal warning. Some of them will not be too lenient with you and may even withhold your bonuses and everything, And then if this continues for say a month or two, they may kick in what we call performance improvement plan for you. You understand? And that is very serious. So during a performance improvement plan, you are given all the necessary processes or necessary accoutrements, let me just put it that way, to help you do your work well. If after everything, and mostly the duration is about 3 months. So if after the 3 months you are still non-performing, then we may have to have a capacity hearing for you and then terminate your contract. And that is agreeable by the labor law. You understand? That is how, we go about it for a non-performing employee. I'll let council handle the other aspect. Since council is really on the side of the employer.
So, I mean, usually, I think you've touched on most of the processes that usually an employee is taking to ensure that they deliver. The other question is what? That
the employee side, you are entitled to some benefits.
Yeah.
You are not being paid the basic benefits. What do you do as an employee?
We said dialogue.
Yes, it feels.
It feels, and we said when you are dialoguing, just don't do by word of mouth.
Document.
I mean, it gets to a point where you have to document your demands. Now, also try to find out what is what is it that you are premising your demands on. Is there anything that anything in the terms and conditions of service that is due you and that is not given you? Okay, or what is it? Okay, before you even take the step and say that you are demanding what is yours. A lot of the times, people demand what is not theirs.
So it's mine, I've dialogued, it hasn't worked.
Then we said that you can fall on the Labour Commission.
Okay.
You know, a Labour Commission, what they basically will do is try to bring the parties together, you know, and try to resolve amicably the dispute between them.
So when does God come in? When does the court come in, or I should just rely on Labour
even
Commission
if you go by the Labour Commission processes, I mean, once it fails, the court becomes the last resort. So
what are some of the remedies?
The remedies.
Possible remedies, yes. So
if it's
I'm entitled to a contract. I've not been given a contract. I'm entitled to some benefits. I've not been given the benefit. I've gone to the NLC, National Labour Commission. What are some of the possible remedies I should be expecting? But
it is what you are demanding. You understand me? What got you there is what they will try to get you to have.
And the waste of my time and everything do not compensate me in any way.
It depends. It depends. You understand? If you can quantify those, then of course they will look at it. They are not just sitting there to listen to the employer alone. They will also listen to the employee, look at where they can. The ultimate, you know, let me say, objective of the Labour Commission is not to separate the parties. It's to bring the parties together. It's to create a harmonious, you know, conducive environment for the parties to work. You understand me? So they will try their possible best to do that. But where one party is still not satisfied with the outcome from the Labour Commission, then you are free. It's a free environment.
Yeah.
You can.
So what will be your final words to a prospective employer, employee proper, employer proper? If you have an advice for someone generally, in terms of employer-employee relationship, the contracts, the benefits, what would those final words be? What would be the advice?
Okay, so for me, I would like the two parties to avert their minds to some provisions in the Labour Act, especially sections 8 to 18. If they can read, they should just avert their minds to those provisions. It tells them, both parties, their rights, their obligations, and all that, and what they need to do and not to do.
I think next week we'll be doing rights and responsibilities of the employer and the employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for me, I would like to emphasize, as far as the employee is concerned, is to avert their minds to section 11 G and H, which talks about the duties of the worker. But I just want to emphasize on these two. That one, that they should protect the interest of the employer. Without the employer, there will not be employee. So, first, you have to do that. And then, secondly, take proper care of the property of the employer entrusted to the worker or under the immediate control of the worker. Those are the things you are working with. Those are the tools you are using to bring in the money. So if you don't take good care of those, the employer, it gets to a point where the employer cannot afford to provide those machines, and everybody goes home. Now, for the employer, under Section 9, D, G, and H is where I would like to stress. The first is that develop the human resource by way of training and retraining the worker.
Okay.
Very important, because these days, look, thank you. These days, talent is very expensive. So that is one. Second is to keep open the channel of communication with the worker. And then the last is to protect the interests of the worker.
If the employer will do that and the employee will do that, that would be a very nice relationship.
In the Labour Act. Those who drafted this, those who passed it, they know what they are talking about.
Yes, they do.
They do.
My time is almost up. Linda.
I think Azula said everything. I think Azula said everything. But all that I want to add is that you should ensure which type of employment contract you are entering into, whether it's permanent or full-time, whether it's part-time, whether it's fixed term, whether you are even a casual worker or a temporary worker. You have to know all this and understand. As for your rights and duties, just like what Council said, it spells out in the law. So in case you are not, you forget anything, just refer to the law and let the law be your guide.
Thank you so much. Council, thank you so much. And so let me just summarize what we've said so far with the second half. Idea I can say, when you be a juma, making sure say juma ben teaching on an a. We nipa on an juma permanently say, oh yeah, what foul say or no ye juma. I feel boy in a way until someone yamako. And I say, brabe be na kokeke. And I said, Brana be juma for a period, say be 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, be juma ko. A juma be na oni paneye. Say juma na oni paneye, irrespective of say type on any year. Say only ni ye juma edi moa. Nye maybe wo ho e chiso de ma. E chiso otua oka 1. O chiso otua oka. You see a minimum wage ni 18.15. Ti mean say oni obi ye juma. And just independent less than 400 cedis. And just independent less than 400 Ghana cedis. Into the be a juan or less than 400 Ghana cedis. Obumra. Secondly, no, only be a juma edimua. And just a otua or snet. So, who do 60 years now, oko homea. Who hears scout or home. And says an independent snet sakano. Your tier 1, tier 2, which you are sakano. We use to skinny be a cahuitia. So that's a would do 60 years now or what crano. It is a skaka crane mount. Now they are sure how far. And every month someone will be a crack. Now they are sure how far. So that's kind of so cheer. When you be a juma here and leave. It's a coach a home. What I say? Because we to be a juma from 1st January to 31st December. Abra want to me a home. It's a home. Na law ne so say yam ma okra na say ma 15 days out the be home. Sa home no friend is saying holidays in ka ho, weekends in ka ho. E say o de home 15 days. E bi dey 50, e bi 20, e bi 30, e bi 40. But yam ma okra na nje say ma anything less than 15 days. Uyi obi a wanyem ana yamia boa wetimi awo ba. Meaning senti, I say more 3 months at the home, oh fee. Now shark colano, na colani do baby, and so on be juma. Now be juma cran so some of the benefits cranny say, if you are cranny a more half day, be a part day, and they depend. But that 3 months and then I just saw the home of fee, now the show vanity, law the amount. To be a ye, oh yeah, near as one be juma next week, I be with you to mean you with But what I say, see ye with dear what tumra. Na ebetimi de sa employer no ebetimi afa no to ensure say obey the right thing. But what I say, into these are some of the benefits that I just say unya na it do you. E ya wo de law ne the amount. So one kasa ope na one gia na o employer na fa ma wa obi antimi mboa wo na je say oje osi on fa ma na ofre say emeboa wa and I even legal aid meboa and National Labour Commission meboa ba beboa but what se hona nim se weni a just say the maw ne emfa maw na what hona hu a and then they say wow jejereje ye wa ha se beboa mo hu emra no ne ade a just say unya na wo so onya dia yenti be mboa wo ene kwan bia so without much ado, let me again give a shout out to Mamel's Creation for my outfit, the style. I'm loving it. And LS Fashion Mall. Samuela on 0243018508. And the Mamel's Creation Rose on 0541809393. So the material is from Ella Samuela. She's in Kumasi, but anywhere else, she will sort you out, you understand? And Mamel's Creation, she's in Teshi, but wherever you find yourself, just take a picture of yourself. Send it to her. You should give you a good deal, and nationwide delivery should ensure that it's sent to you. So again, go to our social media handles, The Lord Chambers, Facebook, YouTube. We are all there. And please, next week we'll be dealing with the rights and responsibilities of the employee. Next week, I did say, "Uni obi ye juma, no obi no ye juma." Then I maybe just say nipa no. Imrasha say onya. Now also our money pane juma and then I just say nipa ne ye mau. Next week, yame ya adoma. Ye beshe ni na. Now please again, we need sponsorships, either in cash or kind. So if you have any kind of sponsorship, just call us on 0559680066 and we will be good to go. So my last final shout out is to Osofo Mami Bewa. Osofo Mami Bewa, I see you. Thank you so much, and please God be with us. Until next week, it's adieu from us.